Congratulations. Good. Hi. Good. You look lovely.
Congratulations.
Once again, good evening and welcome. My name is Michael Newhouse. I'm privileged to serve as the Chairman of the Board of Selectmen in Wilmington. I'll be your Master of Ceremonies this evening. At this time, I'd like to invite our guest of honor and his wife, Michael and Jane Caira. If you could please join me at the podium. Have a seat and let's... I've had the good fortune of working with Mike in a number of different capacities since about 1996. And throughout that time, I've never shy about reminding him that he's only a couple of years younger than my parents. And I have what I consider to be friendly nicknames. I often call them the old battle axe, names like that. But the fact of the matter is that when you deal with a guy that I consider to be an old pro, like Mike, it's actually easy to forget that when he first took over as Wilmington's town manager, he was about 41 years old, give or take, and actually a few years younger than I am right now. What an extraordinary job he's done in assuming that leadership position at such a young age. We're pleased to have a number of speakers here this evening, family, friends, colleagues of Mike's that we're very anxious to hear from. And a number of the guests this evening have actually been friends with Mike for a very long time, going back to high school and even before that. And I'd like to kick off the speaking program tonight by inviting one such friend to the podium to reflect on the quote-unquote young Mike Caira, if you will. Back when he used a comb and wore a size 36 suit. Please join me in welcoming our first speaker, who's no stranger to any of us. He's a graduate of Wilmington High School class of 1967. He's a longtime television reporter for WGBH, and then more recently WCVB News Center 5. He's now a senior reporter for WBUR and National Public Radio. Please welcome a very dear and longtime friend of Mike's, David Boyer.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much, Mike. Thank you very much, Mike. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here tonight. It's a pleasure to be back home because I feel like I am back home. I know it's over the line, it's Buzz's property, but this is Wilmington North. Inevitably, I find myself as a reporter, as a student of history, and as a former young protege of Lars Nielsen, who sailed the inland waters of history, I find myself going back to the past. You know, going back to the past tells you where you've come from, and sometimes it makes sense of where you are. And in that case, never so much as my boyhood friend, Michael Caira. I was with Michael Caira when he first became town manager. That was 1966, Student Government Day. He was a junior. What I remember about Wilmington at the time was the town managers were a short-term crop. They came with the spring and went with the frost. You know, we could ride our bicycles on Route 93 at the time. Hadn't opened yet. And Wilmington football was still graced because they had kids who still grew up on farms. In fact, back then, when Wilmington played Chelmsford, it was almost like the agricultural fair. Michael and I couldn't get enough of baseball in politics. We used to spend productive hours of classroom time writing newspaper copy and passing it back and forth. He was the voice of Wilmington High School basketball and intramural basketball, announcing the games while nearby the Celtics were pulling off their historical run of basketball championships. We ran for class president together, against each other. You know, two kids with big ambitions and two kids who were encouraged to think big. And to this day, I am grateful because I think of Wilmington as the Cheers bar, where everybody knew your name and where kids were encouraged and cheered on. I can't tell you how much it means to me thinking back to the past about all the people that cheered me on from my hometown. In our yearbook in 1967, Maury Caira, AKA Kiko Caira, he had a number of aliases, demonstrated an attitude that I think became a managerial skill in his later career. He listed his pet peeves as, quote, unnecessary subjects and phony people. His ambition, as stated in the yearbook, was to become the commissioner of baseball and U.S. Supreme Court justice. And one page earlier in the yearbook, David Bowery listed his ambition as becoming a U.S. senator and to succeed Johnny Most, the voice of the Celtics, as the voice of the Boston Celtics. Well, you know, young men reach for their dreams, and along the way, they often meet disappointments as well as the joys of accomplishment. Michael Caira got taller, got bigger. I didn't. I never got to replace Johnny Most, but I did go into radio and television. And Mike Caira never got to be commissioner of baseball. But the hell with commissioner, Mike Caira broke Cal Ripken's record for the longest streak, the longest unbroken streak as a town manager of Wilmington. You know, we both came within, looking back on the past and where we came from, it strikes me now that we both came within reach of our goals. We're doing what we loved and what we love now. But Mike especially did it in his own hometown. He's brought honor and distinction and inestimable public service to this town. And he has made it the town that is singularly the family-oriented community that it is. I'm proud to know him. I'm honored to be here. And he has been one terrific town manager. I'm glad to call him my friend.
Thank you, David. I've always said that the best way to measure a man's competence is by looking at the people that he hires. And the best way to measure a man's character is by looking at how he treats his family. In the case of Mike's family, I've noticed two things. To their credit, the men in the family always seem to marry up. I got to be honest, fellas, there's not one among you who's really like a young Marlon Brando or anything. The other thing I've noticed about the family is that, to the credit of all of you, the way that you all treat each other speaks volumes about your character, both as individuals and as a family. And when I think of the Caira family, I think of words like integrity, loyalty, and commitment. I'd like to take this opportunity then to recognize a number of the extended family members of the Cairas. First, I'd like to welcome Mike's cousins, Frank Tremontazzi and Patricia Walsh. Please welcome Mike's sister, Michelle Caira Nortonen. Please welcome Mike's brother and sister-in-law and their family, Kevin and Cheryl Caira, along with Amy Caira, David Caira, and Warren and Maureen Lum, who are Cheryl Caira's mother and father. I'd also like to recognize the family of Aldo Caira Jr. and Sharon Caira, with their son Mark Caira and son Joseph, and his wife, Mary. I'd also and a shout out to Aldo and Sharon's son, Aldo III, who is away wasting his money getting a law degree at St. John's Law School in New York. I'd also like to recognize Kenneth and Mary Ann Caira, brother and sister-in-law, and their children, Sarah Jean Caira, Brianne Caira, and Jeffrey Caira. Welcome. I'd like to recognize numerous other members of the family in a bit, but for now, we have a couple of special guests to invite to the podium. Mike does not hide the tremendous amount of pride that he has in his entire family. And for over the last 16 years, I've never really seen him get misty about any of those members of the family, as proud as he is of them, except when he talks about his grandchildren. So certainly the night would not be complete if we didn't hear from at least a couple of those grandchildren. So I'd like to invite forward grandson Christian Bolanos and granddaughter Allison Bolanos. Everybody can see you. Step forward.
Thank you, Mr. Newhouse. You might know them is Jane and Michael, but we call them Nana and Yo. We call them that because when our mom was a teacher, I stayed at their house. Sometimes Yo used to drop a pen from a door ledge and go, Yo! And it stuck as a name. But no matter the name, we love both kind-hearted grandparents the same.
We visit them every Sunday. Sometimes Yo cooks yummy hot dogs and hamburgers, and Nana makes delicious banana bread. When we were younger, we went to Donna's Donuts. Nana and Yo always play games with us. Every year, Nana takes us to get new clothes for school. Yo works really hard in his job. Nana and Yo are the best people that you could ever meet.
On behalf of Samantha, Caroline, and Anna, we would like to thank our grandparents with a special retirement gift. Happy retirement, Yo!
Great job. And this too? You can go that way on this one.
I think we raised the bar a little bit high too early in the night. As I said, I always thought that one of the best ways to measure a man's competence is by looking at the people that he hires and with whom he surrounds himself in the workplace. By this measure, the people with whom Mike has worked throughout his distinguished career reflect the very highest standards of professionalism and the commitment to excellence for which Mike has consistently strived for over 22 years. We're pleased to have a number of these current and former employees of the town of Wilmington, and it's at this time that I'd like to recognize just a few of those current department heads who are in attendance. Please welcome Carol Hamilton, Director of Planning and Conservation. Public Buildings Superintendent George Hooper. Pamela McKenzie, Treasurer Collector. Edward Bradbury, Fire Chief. Elderly Services Director Terry Marciello. Building Inspector Big Al Spalding. And Town Clerk Sharon George. Joining this list is our next speaker. Please give a warm welcome for Police Chief Mike Pagonis.
Thank you.
That's all.
Wow, talk about pressure, huh? That's going to be a tough act to follow. Those are the cutest kids in the world. Give them another round of applause, folks. The only thing could be worse is Kevin McDonald could follow me. I know there's a lot of speakers tonight, folks, and I want to tell everyone that's coming up here to the podium, relax. Relax. If you saw my performance at Chris Neville's party, you got nothing to worry about. You're going to do just fine and do much better than I will. And I saw Jim Maselli here earlier. Jim, where are you, Jim? Right there. You just wanted to see if it's true, right? When Mike Newhouse asked me to speak tonight, and I was very, very honored to come up on behalf of the department heads, because it's not often in life that you get the cherished feeling of being led by somebody as wonderful as Mike Caira. Mike Caira, believe it or not, I know a lot of people have a lot of other names for him. We consider him a friend, a mentor, a leader, gives us guidance on a daily basis. In my police department, we have a creed that everything you do should be done with respect, compassion, and commitment. And those are words that certainly Mike Caira exemplifies. As a department head, you have great occasion to go in and speak with Mike Caira in his capacity as a town manager on some very serious subjects. Subjects that really, deep down inside, impact families, constituents, residents, and employees on the deepest levels. And until you're in that room, you can't really embrace how wonderful a guy this is. To understand that he not only thinks of himself, but he thinks about the residents, he thinks about the community, he thinks about the families involved, the individuals involved, and his guidance in reaching the decisions that we reach are not easy. They're certainly not easy, folks. But I can tell you, every time we meet, and I know all the department heads in this room can say the same thing, his mantra was, it's the right thing to do if you're doing it for the residents of the town of Wilmington. And I'll tell you, folks, you really have a great guy here. He's going to be sorely missed. We're happy to have Jeff following in his footsteps, because I believe Jeff understands and will lead in the same way. So I just want to say, on behalf of all the department heads, Mike, thank you. It's been a true blessing to be working with you and call you my friend.
Chief, I don't want to bust your bubble there, but Mr. McDonald might not be speaking, but trust me, he's following you. Jean Vanier once wrote that many people are good at talking about what they are doing, but in fact do little. Others do a lot, but don't talk about it. They are the ones who make a community live. Mike Caira has always understood that, and he figured out that a long time ago, what too many people on Beacon Hill and Capitol Hill still haven't figured out, that it's more important to get the job done than it is to get credit for it. That's why Mike has been so successful over the last 22 years by partnering up with a variety of business leaders, community leaders, volunteer organizations, religious organizations, and all of these other groups that make Wilmington such a special place to live. We're privileged to have several of these extraordinary volunteers here this evening, and in recognition of that invaluable partnership, please join me in welcoming a member of each of the following community organizations to meet at the podium. Please join me, Mr. Bob Ennis, President of Wilmington Rotary Club, Boy Scout Troops Number 56, represented by Greg Monteforti, and the 4th of July Committee, represented by Scott Garant, Chairman.
Would you like to go first? I'll do the first. Go right ahead. Thank you, Michael. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am extremely honored tonight to represent the Wilmington Rotary Club as we honor Mike Caira for his many years of service to the town of Wilmington, both as town manager and as town moderator. However, before the Rotary presentation, I'd like to take an opportunity to thank Mike publicly for some of the very nice things he's said and done for me over the past several years. He spoke on my behalf at my retirement party back in May, and he's also promoted me a couple of times, so I really appreciate from the heart the nice things that he's done for me. As a result, I guess it's time for payback. And I'd like to present Michael a couple of tokens of my appreciation personally that I just want to extend to him tonight. If you've ever attended a retirement party here in Wilmington, or a luncheon or a dinner on behalf of a town employee, you might most likely have heard Michael take liberty of poking some fun at that employee. In fact, he's got quite adept at doing it over the years, him being a town employee himself. Mike has always been one of the final speakers because he furiously jots down notes all night long, waiting to lampoon a whole host of speakers who have gone before him tonight, and no doubt tonight will be no exception. Tonight, I am very pleased to present the inaugural Michael Caira Umbrella of Distinction Award. Wait till you get a load of this. If you've, let's see, where are we? This is made of highly polished plastic. It's been carefully filled with virgin spring water, and it's been tainted with a few drops of oil. And if you shake it up, just like those snow globes, and you put it down, unlike a snow globe where everything falls to the bottom, all the crap oil flows to the top on this. Now, you will also notice this is a very highly technical gift that Mike is getting tonight. It's made of glow sticks, and these glow sticks are reminiscent of Mike as a town manager. Here's where the payback comes. It's very, very pretty and handsome. It's nice to look at, but it's not very bright. Good one. All right. Now, most of you know that during Mike's tenure, he always had an opportunity to drive in a recycled police cruiser. Now, to his credit, Mike never took the frontline cruiser for himself. He always realized that that was more important to be out on the streets of Wilmington, so he would get a car that was a couple of years old. I just found out recently that Mike has always had a secret passion to have blue lights installed in his car, and he was never able to use them. I don't know what he wanted them for, but tonight, since this is his last active night on duty, I just wanted to present him with a paddle that flashes red and blue. And Mike, you can use this in your car, or maybe you can even use it in the bedroom. And finally, I was approached by a local resident who wanted to come tonight, but for some reason he was unable to obtain a ticket. I'm not sure if he couldn't find one or nobody would sell him one, but he asked me that I present this to you tonight. You can open it up real quick. It's two beautifully framed pictures of Kevin McDonald. But I'm sure Mike will hold that in close to his heart. Now to the serious business. In 1905, a young Chicago lawyer named Paul Harris organized a meeting with a small group of fellow businessmen from his Chicago neighborhood. His goal was threefold: to establish fellowship among his fellow businessmen. It was to build and sustain commerce within the community and his neighborhood. And third, it was to build the community. It was during that first meeting that the Rotary Club was actually formed in Chicago, which became a worldwide organization. He was a visionary who recognized that by getting the little things done right, by helping others, the big things many times took care of themselves. He was a role model and example to others. Today, the Rotary Club is comprised of 166 countries around the world. There are 34,000 Rotary clubs worldwide and over 1.2 million members. Many of you might be surprised to find out that at one time Mike was a Rotarian, and I'm sure it was because of his busy schedule that he was probably prevented from doing that because of all the activity he was doing for the town of Wilmington. Upon Paul Harris's death in 1947, Rotary International took note of his motto, service above self, and created what has become known as a Paul Harris Fellowship. You can buy a Paul Harris Fellowship with a substantial donation to the Rotary Foundation, and your donation would go to fighting and eradicating polio and disease among children. Your donation may go to building wells and septic systems in third world countries, or your money may go to basic education needs and literacy throughout the world. That Paul Harris Fellowship can also be bestowed on an individual who has made a significant contribution to his community. Tonight, I am extremely proud to present the Wilmington Rotary Club Board of Directors nomination to bestow a Paul Harris Fellowship on Mike Caira in his honor, and a check for $1,000 has been donated to the Rotary Foundation in his name, and I'd like to present that to you right now, Michael. Something else and here's a pin that you can proudly wear on your lapel. Congratulations.
Well, Chris took half my speech. I'm really honored to be here this evening, and how about a nice hand for Michael Newhouse and the job he's doing? Yeah, you know it's coming. It was great to be introduced by the second best lawyer in Wilmington. And as Chris alluded to earlier, those of you who have heard Mike speak before, it's rather daunting being up here. It's a little like sneaking up behind Mike Tyson to pick a fight. You might get the first punch in, but then you better run like hell. I've had the opportunity to work with Mike in many different and varying situations as a member of the Planning Board, the Master Plan Committee, of course the 4th of July Committee, Wilmington Youth Soccer Board member, and also during those 15 minutes I was on the Board of Selectmen. This evening it is my pleasure to speak specifically on behalf of the 4th of July Committee. As many of you know, we took the opportunity to honor Mike and Jane this summer during our Fun on the 4th celebration. Mike, that's just my way of telling you I didn't bring anything tonight. Mike has been an advocate for the committee and for the celebration. In addition to his many responsibilities, Mike has committed himself to ensuring that we were able to put forth an enjoyable, safe, and successful event for the community each year. Mike's commitment to the celebration has not, however, always made my job easy. As everyone knows, Mike is a big fan of the Celtics, a big fan of the Patriots, certainly a huge fan of the community, and ardently a fan of his family. What you may not know is that Mike's not a big fan of having the carnival in town during the 4th of July. As we welcome Jeff Hull as our new town manager, I was fortunate enough to get an advance copy of the instructions that Mike left behind. I apologize, I tried to rent a U-Haul to bring it all, but there were none available. So I did bring one volume. This is volume 89, section 374, chapters 216 to 288. And it's entitled How to Be Like Mike by Michael A. Caira. And Jeff, when you get a chance, turn to, make sure I give you the right section, chapter 265, page 1029. You'll find the following. In early May of each year, call Scott Garant and ask if the 4th of July celebration can run without the carnival. Taking the first task off your desk. You can rip that page out. It cannot. I also thought it important to come up with some ways to help Mike ease into retirement. Firstly, I wanted to help him tackle a task he's not had to tackle in 22 years. Mike, here's a copy of Auto Hunter for you. Secondly, I've been very concerned about how Mike's going to transition from 14-plus-hour work days into a life of leisure. In order to assist with that transition, I've arranged for you to slide right into a new position, Mike. You'll surely be comfortable in this role as it comes with the authority to direct people, provides you with complete autonomy to push the right buttons at will. You'll be the sole decision maker regarding when things can start and when things should stop. I've even secured the attire for your new job. Ladies and gentlemen, please congratulate the new Fiesta Show's Tilt-A-Whirl operator. as Chris said, now comes the serious part. To the Board of Selectmen, I commend you for choosing the right man to succeed Mike, and I offer my heartfelt best wishes to Jeff and to Tina. I cannot let this evening pass without thanking Jane Caira. My wife Anna and I have had the great fortune of having Jane involved in our lives. Our son Ryan benefited immensely from having Jane as a teacher in kindergarten, a teacher who cared greatly for her students, showed them tremendous compassion, and always let them know how special they were. Every day in our home, we have a small but wonderful reminder of the influence Jane had on Ryan as he washes his hands to get ready for dinner and recites the ABCs. Although, Jane, I will tell you that Guinness would be interested in how quickly he can now say the alphabet. You will not find a person with a bigger heart than Jane Caira. She has a deep devotion to the community and its residents and always takes the time to show she cares. As an example, 2 years after our son left Jane's classroom, she mailed him a handwritten note congratulating him on his first communion. Jane, you are truly a special person, and I'm delighted to have the opportunity to honor and thank you this evening as well. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank Mike and Jane's grandchildren and their grandchildren for sharing them with us, and to tell you how very happy we are that you're now going to have the opportunity to spend that time that you cherish with them. In Mike Caira, the residents of Wilmington have benefited from the service of a man who has gone far beyond his title of town manager, far beyond what was required of his job description. He has been resolute in his dedication to doing what he believes is right for the town, whether at his desk or out in the community. For 22 years, he has been committed to making Wilmington a wonderful place to live. I have seen him accept invitations to 6th grade boys basketball games after a long day at work. I've seen him show up and keep a commitment at the soccer field on a Saturday morning when the washing machine hose at home had gone and the basement was being flooded. That's dedication. Personally, Mike is someone whose guidance I have sought on town issues and on whose opinion I have always given great weight. By anyone's measure, Mike has succeeded beyond what any of us could have asked and has been a driving force in making Wilmington what it is today, a place that each of us is proud to call home. For that, we owe Mike a debt of gratitude. Mike and Jane, on behalf of the 4th of July Committee, I thank you, and we wish you nothing but a very well-deserved very best.
Hello. Can you hear me? Mike, I'm honored to be here tonight on behalf of the leadership and scouts of Troop 56. Along with me is our senior patrol leader, Scott Robinson. And we really appreciate all your support you've given the troop and scouting over the years. And even though at most of the Eagle Scout ceremonies, I had the luxury of speaking after you, which I always regretted. I'm like, Mike's such a great speaker, and I'm like, oh, I have to follow him. But thank you. We brought a few things for you tonight. Come on, Scotty. First, we have a Class B Troop 56 t-shirt you can wear around town, we're working around the yard. We have a Troop 56 baseball hat with your name on it so nobody will steal it from you. And you've given scouts so many plaques on their Eagle Scout ceremonies that we decided we should give you one. We can't make you an Eagle Scout though, but this plaque is presented to the town manager, Mike Caira, on the occasion of his retirement for his appreciation and continuing support of scouting, Boy Scout Troop 56, Wilmington, Mass., September 27th, 2012. Jan, we'd also like to thank you. In my 12 years as Scoutmaster of the troop, Mike was at every single Eagle ceremony that we've ever had. And I can imagine you're at home on Sunday saying, another Eagle ceremony, can't you stay home? So we thank you too. Thank you very much, and good luck in retirement.
That was a wonderful gesture from wonderful organization, Troop 56. I'm sure that Mike will enjoy that hat and T-shirt in his yard, but retirement and no retirement, if you think he's going to be doing yard work in that thing, you got another thing coming. By the way, Mr. Grant, where are you? Where is that guy? Oh, hi. You're right, your stint as a selectman was rather brief. Most political terms are measured on the calendar. Could have measured yours with a stopwatch. No, seriously, I appreciate you recognizing me as the second best lawyer in Wilmington. It's particularly special coming from the guy who's the fifth best lawyer in this room. You know, one of the things that's always distinguished Mike in the workplace, and with all of his commitments really, is just his work ethic. He's just got an old-fashioned, hard-nosed approach to doing his job. And that work ethic, as you can imagine, is nothing new. Like many folks of that generation, I'm not calling you old, Mike, many folks of that generation worked hard starting at a young age. And Mike was fortunate enough to meet a number of other young people when he worked in the late 60s at Wonder Bread in Natick. And he's remained friends with a number of these people throughout the years. And I know that Mr. Boeri had talked about how Wilmington has always been a place where people think big. And certainly Michael has always been one of those people that thinks big. And he was fortunate enough to hang around with like-minded young people. One such guy is our next speaker. He's a principal at numerous corporations, including Laverty Lonis in Cambridge, Massachusetts. It's a real estate development company. He's also a hotel and restaurant owner, and is a benefactor of numerous philanthropic organizations. He joins us this evening with his wife, Jessica. Please welcome a longtime friend and colleague, Mr. Paul Lonis.
Boy, I don't know if I can live up to that introduction. Well, for those of you who don't know me, I am Mike Caira's best friend in the whole wide world. I see some doubt out there. Well, just coincidentally, I received this note last week in the mail. Dear Mr. Lonis, I have to share a short story. On August 26th, I was at Saratoga Racetrack. One of the horses was named the Big Guy. Even though it was an extremely long shot, I put my money on him to show, because Mike's best friend in the whole wide world calls him the Big Guy. Long story short, I won. My theory on betting, it's all in the name. See you at the party. Well, for me and Mike, it started in 1968 at the Wonder Bread Bakery. There I was in the shipping department, sloshing racks back and forth, loading trucks,
unloading trucks. All of a sudden, over the intercom, Paul Lunas to the shipping room. Paul Lunas to the shipping room. I was worried. My first week, and I had lied on my application. I was only 17. You were supposed to be 18 to work in the factory. So I went into the shipping office. This crusty old guy, Jimmy Van Meter, said, Lonis, see those 2 racks of dinky Twinkies over there? Take them down to Mike Caira, the manager of the thrift store. These racks weighed a couple 100 pounds, but I grabbed them, dragged them across the shipping room floor, all the way through the factory to the thrift store. I stood in the doorway, and I looked at this guy in there, the big guy, and I'm thinking, he's probably older than me, maybe 5 years older than me, but he could be a teenager. And he's running this entire thrift store. And he's got these 2 cute little girls working for him. And I watch him for a while, and he's putting stuff on the rack, and he's taking care of customers. This guy is amazing. So I went over and I said, Jimmy Van Meter sent these dinky Twinkies down to you. He said, yeah, put them over there. And I was intrigued. I said, my name's Paul. He says, my name's Mike. I said, you're in charge of the entire thrift store? He gave me a weird look. So we shot the breeze for 5 or 10 minutes. But right then and there, whether he liked it or not, I knew Mike Caira was going to be my friend. There was something special about him. Well, for 3 summers, I worked with Mike Caira. I'd see him every day, every work day, that is. And a friendship grew. But the next summer when I got there, no Mike Caira. I asked around. Nobody knew. Luckily, I had his home phone number. I called the number. I believe his mother answered, but I'm not sure. I said, is Mike there? I had a night job, so I called during the day. She said, no, he's at work. I said, well, where does he work? She said, he's working at the governor's office. I said, the governor of what? She said, Frank Sargent, the governor of Massachusetts. I'm thinking, holy cats, this guy Mike Caira is unbelievable. First he's running this thrift store as a teenager. Now he's working at the governor's office. And I'm picturing this guy telling the governor what to do. And tell him how to run the state. Well, he had that gig for a few years, and Frank Sargent retired. I figured, well, we'll see how good he is now. He's got to go out during hard times and get a job. Next thing I know, this guy is the national director. National, this is nationwide, for the Sons of Italy. And he's in his early 20s. Just one big success after another. I admired Mike Caira. I looked up to him. I wanted to be like him. And then he married Jane. That was the frosting on the cake. He had the nicest babe around. I couldn't believe it. How could anybody be so lucky? Well, he got the job in Wilmington, and he told me, he said, you know, this is my dream job. I love my town. I want to do something for it. And this is just great. Well, he was there for probably 2 or 3 weeks when I made my first phone call. Town of Wilmington. Manager's office, please. Manager's office. Is Mike Caira in? Yes, who may I ask is calling? To be funny, I said, his best friend in the whole wide world. And the girl thought I was crazy, which a lot of people still do. She said, well, who is his best friend in the whole wide world? I said, Paul Lunas. I was connected. Well, whenever I called the town of Wilmington and asked for Mike Caira after that, I'd ask for the big guy. Because in the innermost sanctums, that office he worked in, they all knew that he was the big guy. But one day, I wasn't paying attention. I dialed the number. I got the operator, I guess for the town of Wilmington. I said, is the big guy in? And she said, is this his best friend in the whole wide world? A lot of people have recognized Mike as being great. Now, I've been over his house on many occasions back in the old days. He'd invite me over there, even Thanksgiving and Christmas. I was over there one day in an obscure corner of his house. I see this picture. I go over and I look at it. It's the President of the United States, Ronald Reagan, and Mike Caira in the Oval Office. Now, this isn't one of those political things where you pay $500 and get your picture taken. This is Mike Caira with the President of the United States in the Oval Office. I was dumbfounded. I didn't say anything about it, but a couple weeks later, I run into this friend of mine, just coincidentally, who happens to be in the Secret Service. And he's assigned to the White House. I said, Pete, a friend of mine was in the White House a couple of months ago, I think. And he had a meeting with President Reagan. His name was Mike Caira. He said, Mike Caira? Yeah, I remember him. I did the background check on him. I said, really? I said, can you tell me what they were talking about? He said, well, I don't know, and if I could, I wouldn't. He said, but I'll tell you something funny that not too many people know. I came in there after the meeting, and the president leaned over and he said, Mike, would you mind taking a picture with me that I could have as a memento? All kidding aside, I'm not the brightest guy in the whole wide world, but there are three things I know. The first is, I know I'm not Mike's best friend in the whole wide world, but I think I'm in the top 100. I think the town of Wilmington has been blessed to have Mike Caira at the helm for 22 years. And I know that I've been blessed to have Mike Caira as a friend.
Thank you, Paul. I don't know if anybody noticed that story, but is there any more appropriate place for Mike Caira to be working than a thrift store? I'm like, of course he worked in a thrift store. I mean, he's not going to work at Starbucks or Tiffany's. He's going to work at the Wonder Bread thrift store. You know, true story, I tease him for being thrifty, frugal, cheap. He's always the first one to write a check for a good cause. We all know how generous he is with his time. But darn it, he is a thrifty guy. I remember a story, and at the time about 26, 27 years old, I'd just been elected to the Board of Selectmen in 1996. I'm a little bit anxious for my first meeting, and I walk in and I immediately go to the men's room before I go meet my colleagues before the meeting. And as I walk through the door, Mike is washing his hands, headed out the door. Hi, Mike, how are you? Good, yeah, hi, Mike. Then he kind of stops and he turns around and he points at the urinal. And I look in the urinal and there's a $5 bill in there. And he kind of gives me that look like, what do you think? Now, I don't know this guy from Adam, and I look back and I said, look, Mike, I just don't think it's worth the $5. He said, you're right, you're right. He reaches in his pocket, pulls out another $5, throws it in the urinal and says, but 10 is. It seems like a long, long time that I've had the pleasure of working with Mike as a member of the Board of Selectmen, and there are numerous former elected officials with whom Mike has served throughout his tenure, both as a Wilmington selectman and as the town manager. I'd like to take a couple of moments to recognize some of these folks. First, the former members of the Board of Selectmen with whom Mike served on that board. And I believe joining us tonight, former Selectman Carl Backman, former Selectman James Vanda Sr., former Selectman and current State Representative James Maselli. There are also a number of former Selectmen here this evening for whom Mike served as the town manager. They include former Selectman and current Permanent Building Committee member Diane Allen. Hi, Diane. Yes, she did. Hi, Diane. Former Selectman and retired Superintendent of Public Works Robert Palmer. Former Board of Selectmen member Charles Fiore. And former Board of Selectmen member George Hooper Sr. We've already heard from him, but we can again recognize former flash in the pan Scott Garrett. This evening, we also have some former fellow members of the Board of Selectmen with whom Mike served as a selectman and for whom he served as a town manager. I believe there are two gentlemen here tonight that fit that description. One of them is former Selectman Daniel Ballou. And a very special guest this evening, a person who I suspect was the person most responsible for bringing Mike Caira to Wilmington as the town manager, former Selectman Bob Kane. Our next speaker tonight likewise is a former Selectman, and he's also Mike Caira's successor as the current town moderator. We consider him to be our resident expert in parliamentary procedure and Robert's Rules of Order. Please welcome Kevin McDonald.
That wasn't even funny. First, Mike, Jane, Caira family, friends, it's an honor to be here this evening and part of this special event. Annual town meeting is the 4th Saturday of April. We are all invited. This may be the second largest town meeting in town history tonight. Mike Newhouse has a difficult job this evening of making sure 25 speakers stay on schedule. Unlike town meeting where I have one speaker who speaks 25 times. You were kidding that he's not speaking, right? I just want to make sure. 400 people or more tonight. Either all of them here to honor you and the job you did as town manager, or Jeff Hull's family making sure you're actually leaving. Mike and I, as Mike Newhouse mentioned, have been involved in town government for 30 years together. I actually took positions twice that Mike had held previously. First in 1982 as a member of the Board of Selectmen, and then in 1990 as your current town moderator. So Jeff Hull, it's now your turn to clean up the mess he leaves behind. But speaking of leaving messes behind, it was good to see Buzz Stapczynski in the crowd tonight. Buzz is up the back, there he is. Yeah, thank you. You see, Mike took over for Buzz, okay? And Buzz went on to be the town manager in Andover. And it's hard to believe that 22 years later in their new roles, that the town of Wilmington now has more money than the town of Andover. The feeling in Wilmington when Mike took over as town manager for Buzz was similar to the feeling that NFL fans had today when they found out the real officials were back. Actually, that was pretty good. Come on. Actually, Buzz and Sandy are very good friends of ours, and Buzz did a great job as our town manager of Wilmington and doing a fine job there. Mike, you'll be interested to know that the group of 10 that appealed the Wilmington High School decision actually contacted me last week to see how they could participate in this event tonight. So you'll be happy to know that I personally sold them 10 tickets at their own table, and they're presently seated at the Knights of Columbus. You're all welcome. In all seriousness, Mike Caira has done an outstanding job as our town manager. He's been a fiscal conservative, and it's served our town well. He's been instrumental in building a new middle school, a new public buildings and safety building, more and better fields for the kids of Wilmington. He's had great cooperation with the school department and good relationships with the business community to keep Wilmington's taxes some of the lowest in the entire state. And he's done much of the heavy lifting for what will be a new Wilmington High School. A job well done. 3 things I always was told when I speak at retirement parties: be brief, be bright, and bring a gift. So my gift this evening to Mike is something hopefully he can enjoy in the extra time you're going to have now. It's 2 books from 2 leaders of our nation recently. The first one, The Audacity of Hope by Barack Obama, and Decision Points by George W. Bush. Those who know Mike know one of these will be read and one won't. There's also a gift certificate there for a few more books of your choice as well. But one thing, I'm a fiscal conservative as well, so I actually took these out of the library, so they need to be back next Friday. And I put them under Brian Caira's card. So I close with this thought. Good government is the result of honest, intelligent, caring people working hard, making sound and tough decisions in the best interest of all of the people they serve. I can't think of a better description of Mike Caira than honest, intelligent, and caring, and a better description of how he served as our town manager than hardworking, with intestinal fortitude and in the best interest of all of the residents of the town of Wilmington. Mike and Jane, Mary and I wish you the very best of a long, happy, and healthy retirement. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Earlier, we had the pleasure of recognizing a number of town department heads who strive to reach the very high standards that Mike has set for himself and for his team and for his town. At this time, I'd like to publicly acknowledge the presence and the fine work of the rest of the town's current department heads who have joined us this evening. Please welcome Town Accountant Mike Morris, Recreation Director Deborah Cipriani, Superintendent of Public Works Don Onesite, Library Director Tina Stewart, Engineering Services Director Anthony Pronsky, Health Director Shelley Newhouse, and Water and Sewer Superintendent Michael Woods. Also present earlier this evening was Wilmington Town Council John Foskett, who had to leave to rest up for a big hearing tomorrow morning, but he wanted to extend his congratulations to Mike. I did notice some members of John's firm are here this evening. Delighted to have you here. I did notice that John's predecessor, Paul Durensis, is not here. For those of you who know a bit of a history there, I just want you to know there's no grudges here. We did invite him. Suzanne Sullivan wouldn't let him come. At this time, I'd like to welcome our next speaker, who worked as Wilmington's Director of Planning and Conservation for 13 years, and who represents the kind of strong, capable people upon whom Mike has so heavily relied to make Wilmington the best affordable suburb in Massachusetts. She currently works as the Planning Director for the City of Salem. Please welcome back Miss Lynn Duncan.
Thank you, Mike. It is so nice to see so many familiar faces here this evening. I was thrilled to receive this invitation, and I wouldn't miss this celebration for Mike Caira's retirement for the world. However, I confess, I have a specific purpose in mind, which I will get to later. So I started working for Mike in the town of Wilmington in 1991, 21 years ago, when Mike was young. Mike, I always appreciated the trust that you had in my work and the independence with which I was able to manage the Planning and Conservation Department. I recall that you were not a fan of master plans. However, you allowed me to move forward with such an initiative, and a 36-member committee was appointed. In fact, some of you may have served on that committee. In fact, I know that Scott Garant was co-chair. So 36 members. With 36 members, even scheduling the meetings was controversial. While the town ultimately adopted the master plan, and I hope that it has been valuable to the community, Mike, you created a convert, and I have not done a master plan since. So family, as you've heard this evening, has always been important to Mike. I know this because after meeting about business, I always enjoyed the opportunity to sit in your office and hear about all 4 of your children. And then this evening, you reminded me how welcome my daughter, Nora, was in your office when she would come to visit and would play. Mike, you were a great mentor, and I learned so much about municipal government, local politics, public speaking, and perhaps some about child raising. In fact, I could use some advice now about 18-year-olds. The lessons that I learned stayed with me, were invaluable, and continue to guide me today in my work for the city of Salem. Thank you for 13 great years. This brings me to my ulterior motive for coming tonight. Mike, when I left employment with the town of Wilmington, you said that you would give me a rain check for lunch, but you were very busy. Apparently, you were very busy for 8 years. However, now that you're retired, I have come to collect. Thank you.
Earlier this evening, we heard from a few of Wilmington's terrific community organizations. I'd like to take a couple of moments now to hear from a couple of other folks that have enjoyed a particularly strong relationship with Mike and the town of Wilmington. I'd ask you to please welcome the Wilmington Youth Soccer Association, represented by President Ed Rixtons, the Wilmington Sons of Italy, represented by Amy Caira, and the Grand Lodge of Massachusetts Sons of Italy, represented by Tina Helton.
Good evening. Michael and Jane, Caira family and friends, invited guests, and all. I am here, well, let me introduce myself. My name is Tina Helton, and I am the deputy of the Wilmington Sons of Italy Lodge, 2183. As a deputy, I represent the Grand Lodge at their meetings, and it is my pleasure to present a citation to Michael from the Grand Lodge of Massachusetts. It reads, Grand Lodge of Massachusetts, Order Sons of Italy in America. This is to certify that a testimonial of appreciation is granted to Michael Caira in honor of your retirement and for your dedication, loyalty, and service to your lodge, the order, and the Italian-American community. We, the members of the Grand Lodge of Massachusetts, Order Sons of Italy in America, wish you continued health, success, and happiness. Given in Andover, this 27th day of September 2012, signed by James DeStefano, the state president, and Ronald Hill, the state recording secretary. That's all.
Great, thank you. Mike, thank you very much for emceeing tonight, and I really appreciate the opportunity to get up here and thank Mike for all he's done for the children of Wilmington. I've been president of our organization for 3 years, and I've gotten to really know Mike over that time period, and he's always taken my call, he's always responded when we needed help, and going forward, the Yentl Farm project and the high school are just things I'm very excited about. So for that, Michael, I can't thank you enough, and I think we should all be grateful for him getting these things off the ground for us. So. We were kicking around what to get Mike for a gift tonight. We figured he'll get enough plaques and pictures and things like that, so we talked about maybe a little apparel for tonight. I called Champion's Choice, and this is just a testament to Mike. The first response I got from Steve there was, geez, Mike, what a great guy. Sorry he's leaving the jackets on us. So immediately I thought, well, that's going to help balance my budget, Mike. Thank you very much. So delighted with that. So we've got Mike a little bit of a kind of a light fall jacket, something, I don't know if you're golfing out, Mike, but good for that. We did put MC on the sleeve in case you wanted to be not noticed when you're around Wilmington. We didn't spell out your name. But I have to honestly say, I thought about how many kids have been through the program in the last 20 years. We have 1,300 kids that play now, and I'd have to say there's been thousands of kids through our program. And it's been a great testament to our relationship with the town, what Mike's done for us. And I know there's a lot of families out here that really benefited by Mike being out there doing great things, not just for the families of Wilmington, but absolutely for the kids of Wilmington. So for that, Mike, I thank you very much. On behalf of the board of directors, thousands of kids who've gone through our rec program, myself personally and my wife Debbie and our family, we just thank you, Michael. We really appreciate it. And we did add a little night out to Capitol Grove for the Cairas.
Good evening. I unfortunately won't be as brief as these two, but I'll try. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Amy Caira, and tonight I have the privilege of standing before you to make this presentation not only as a member of the Wilmington Sons of Italy, but also as Michael Caira's niece. But before I make this presentation, and I promise I'll get there, I would like to take this moment to personally congratulate my uncle on 22 years of service and dedication to the town of Wilmington. I think we can all agree that 22 years as a manager of anything is pretty impressive. But his having managed an entire town for more than 2 decades, and managing it extremely well, if I might add, is an extraordinary accomplishment. Just looking around the room tonight, the overwhelming attendance speaks as a true testament to Uncle Michael's character and his positive impact on this town. Saying congratulations and thank you just doesn't seem adequate. You know, I think it's pretty cool to be able to say that I grew up and live in a town where my uncle's a town manager. And while I've always considered myself fortunate in that regard, I consider myself even more fortunate and truly blessed to have my Uncle Michael as just that, my uncle. Because as far as uncles go, he's one of the best. I'd definitely rank him in my top 4. Some of you may not know this, but when I graduated from high school 2 years ago, it was Uncle Michael who presented me with my diploma. Imagine my surprise when I walked across the stage and saw my uncle standing there instead of the principal. This was truly a special moment for me. I mean, anyone can say that they received their high school diploma from their principal. Even fewer can say that they received it from their town manager. And I believe that I am only one in a handful to say that I received mine from my uncle, a man I've known since the day I was born, and whom I love and admire very much. Uncle Michael, I don't think I ever told you how much that meant to me. It was definitely the highlight of my high school experience, so thank you. Now back to the reason I'm standing here, the presentation. I told you I'd get here. Wilmington Sons of Italy, the Angelo Giuseppe Roncalli Lodge, has been in existence since 1967 and has been fortunate enough to have Michael Caira as a member since 1968. In addition to participating at the local level, Michael has also played instrumental roles on both the Sons of Italy's state and national levels. With all of his achievements both outside and within the order, we are extremely proud to call Michael Caira a member of our lodge. And at this time, I'd like to ask the members of the Wilmington Sons of Italy who are here tonight to please stand, just to recognize them, because there's a crowd. Uncle Michael, on behalf of the entire membership of the Angelo Giuseppe Roncalli Lodge, I would like to present you with this gift as a token of our appreciation for all that you've done for both our lodge and the town of Wilmington. We wish you all the best for a long and relaxing retirement. We love you, I love you, and congratulations.
Thank you all. I noticed a couple of things there. The first thing that I noticed is what a fine job Mike's niece did, and Christian and Allison had set the bar kind of high, and these Cairas, they all know how to handle a microphone, don't they? I just suggest that if you do decide to run for office, 2014, 2015 would be pretty good years for you to run. You know, the other thing I noticed, Lou Samaglia, are you a member of the Sons of Italy? What don't you belong to? You're everywhere. In addition to the great work of organizations like the Sons of Italy, One of the many things that makes Wilmington a great town is the uniquely positive relationship between the municipal side of government and the school department. Certainly, the leadership that Mike has demonstrated in this regard is a big reason for that positive relationship, and that's evidenced by the presence of a number of school officials in attendance this evening. Please join me in acknowledging the fine work of both past and present, the following leaders in Wilmington education. I'd like to welcome Robert Peterson of the Shawshene Tech School Committee. James Gillis of the Shawshene Tech School Committee and former WHS Athletic Director. Also in attendance is the Superintendent of the Shawshene Tech, Charles Lyons. And I believe I saw Wilmington Athletic Director Ed Harrison. Dr. Lori Nielsen, former Assistant Superintendent of Schools. And welcome back to Dr. Geraldine O'Donnell, former Superintendent of Schools. I'd like to also welcome Paul Ruggiero, Director of Administration and Finance. Kate Burnham, Assistant Superintendent of Schools. Mary Jane or MJ Burns, Wilmington School Committee. Virginia Bonish, Wilmington School Committee. Robert Hayes, Wilmington School Committee. And the chairperson of the Wilmington School Committee, Margaret Kane. Also, a very special welcome to our next speaker, who's joined here tonight by her husband, Ted, Wilmington Superintendent of Schools, Joanne Benton.
My speech is serious. This one. Winston Churchill wrote that, quote, "We make a living by what we get. We make a life by what we give." There is no one in the town of Wilmington who has given more to the schools than Michael Caira. Mike has truly epitomized what Churchill spoke in 1908, quote, "What is the use of living if it be not to strive for noble causes and to make this muddled world a better place for those who will live in it after we are gone," unquote. Mike has been an incredible supporter of the school system he loves and attended. His warmth and excitement for the schools has been clearly evident in all of his actions. Every year, he could be seen reading to students at the elementary level, conducting mock town meetings at the early childhood centers, and always bringing along his favorite friend, Foghorn Leghorn, to share with his students. He would invite all the kindergarten students to visit his office, and he meant it. I am sure that countless students have taken him up on that offer over the years. In addition, Mike could be seen attending school concerts, applauding our students' accomplishments, and always on the playing fields cheering for the Wildcats. Mike has worked tirelessly to ensure that our students have every advantage, which includes no fees for sports or extracurricular activities, free full-day kindergarten for all. And what more important legacy could he give to our students than a new state-of-the-art high school that will allow all of those who pass through the doors the opportunity to develop a lifelong curiosity for knowledge, a lasting quest for adventure, the inspiration to seek self-improvement by hard work, and the courage to take responsibility. Mike's judgment, insight, unflappable demeanor, keen wit, and constant professionalism have served the Wilmington schools well. There are few people with whom I have worked that I have greater respect for. To say he will be missed is an understatement. But what I admire most about Mike is something that you have all pointed out this evening, and that's his number one priority, his family. Mike takes great pride in his wife, children, and grandchildren. They, in many ways, are responsible for his success in Wilmington. for they have always supported him and made sacrifices so that he could do his job. So to Jane, the entire Caira family, thank you for sharing your husband, dad, grandfather, affectionately known as Yo, with all of us all through the years. He truly is someone special. And lastly, on a personal note, to Mike, thank you for being such an inspiration to me. And thank you for being a wonderful friend. I wish you and Jane all the health, love, and happiness you so deserve. Enjoy this new chapter in your life. You're ready for it. Congratulations.
Thank you, Joanne. As we've mentioned already a few times tonight, Mike Caira has maintained personal friendships and professional associations with a myriad of organizations and people from all different walks of life. He's also maintained those associations and friendships with various municipal and state officials outside of the town of Wilmington. And those relationships have really proved invaluable to the town over the course of time. As I look back through the years, I think the most notable and far-reaching example is when the town secured access through the city of Woburn to construct a connection to MWRA water service, which ensures that the town of Wilmington has an emergency connection, that every resident has potable water to drink when it's needed and as much as needed. Quite frankly, Mike Caira's diplomacy skills and his negotiation skills served as the very basis for that important initiative. And by the way, despite what Mike's loudest critics had predicted at the time, that $4 million pipeline was built on time and on budget on somebody else's dime. Since then, MWRA water in the town of Wilmington literally hasn't cost the Wilmington ratepayer a penny. And that's one of the legacies that Mike Caira will leave, and it's a direct result of his diplomacy and negotiation skills. Of course, many Wilmington officials are here this evening, and we've not yet recognized all of them. We will be sure to do that. At this time, though, I'd like to recognize some other municipal officials from outside the town of Wilmington and some state officials that are in the audience tonight. First of all, Mike, Joe Malone sends his regards quite unexpectedly and necessarily. He couldn't be here this evening. He very much wanted to speak and can't be here, but sends his regards. We are joined this evening by Andover Town Manager and former Wilmington Town Manager, and I know that Buzz already took a ribbing earlier tonight, but if we could give him a sincere round of applause. I also understand that retired Burlington Town Manager Bob Mercier is with us. Bob? We have Tewksbury Selectman and current candidate for State Rep Doug Sears. We have a longtime friend and Waltham City Clerk Russ Malone in attendance. We also have a longtime friend, former state representative, and former colonel of the Massachusetts State Police, and 2006 candidate for Lieutenant Governor Reed Hillman. Welcome. In addition to those folks and many others that I just mentioned, Mike has enjoyed a particularly productive and friendly relationship with another state official. We're pleased that he's here tonight, and I'd invite to the podium State Senate Minority Leader Bruce Tarr.
Thank you very much, Mike. Good evening. And let the record reflect that on my way to the rostrum, Lou Samaglia tried to trip me. It's only because he's jealous that I know more words than he does. It is great to be here with you, Mike and Jane, for this incredible gathering. I actually got here a little bit late, and so I'm parked in Lawrence, and it took me a while to walk over. But I want to let you know, Buzz Stasimski has taken a lot of ribbing here tonight. And Buzz, there's a couple of positive things in that. Number one, it's amazing that 400 people can pronounce your last name. And two, on the way in, I noticed that as we were all in here celebrating Mike's great legacy, the town of Andover has built a toll booth on the access road. And so he'll be getting even as everyone goes on the way out. Mike, you've been doing an incredible job, and I'm beginning to wonder if you've actually been reading from the Wilmington phone book as you bring people up one after the other, after the other, after the other, for this enormous crowd. And it's a crowd so big. The only crowd I've seen like this recently was at the Republican National Convention. I came back just a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, you can clap, it's okay. The only difference is there was no one at that convention who was as conservative as Mike Caira. But you can understand my concern, because when I first got here, Mike Newhouse was up at the podium, and Mike and Jane are over here, and there was an empty chair. And I said, my goodness, Clint Eastwood is going to be here. Think about it. He's about the same age as Mike Caira. They both shoot from the hip, and they both have stopped every opponent cold in their tracks in any fight they've ever been in. It's such a big night, it's actually a 2-camera night for WCTV. Did anyone notice that? Now, I thought that the reason for that was because if the glare from up here knocked out one camera, they'd have a second one as a backup. That's not the case. The second camera is broadcasting live to Rome, Italy, where they are passionately hoping that Mike will retire here and go to take over there, because God knows they need it. But it's probably not to be. Didn't you enjoy Paul Lonis' stories? He was fascinating. Absolutely. He was talking about Governor Sargent. I thought you worked for Governor Winthrop. I didn't realize. That was kind of interesting. It was really amazing. And I thought, well, this is great. Mike Caira went from running a thrift store to a thrift town. And then I thought, my goodness, he's going from running a thrift store to a thrift town, and probably now will go to work for Hair Club for Men. I thought that was an amazing transition. In fact, I hope everyone enjoys this bag of Rogaine that apparently they're passing out and you're on it tonight. I didn't know what it was. It took me a while to figure it out. Absolutely amazing, Mike. It is an amazing, absolutely amazing night. I was out front, and there was a guy ready to come in here and move reconsideration on the high school. I wrestled him to the ground. My chief of staff, AJ, is with me. And Mike, right now, that individual is in the trunk of Jim Stewart's car. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen, but you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if, they went through the drive-thru at McDonald's on the way home. At any rate, Mike, it's amazing. You're taking notes. You know what's really amazing about Mike Newhouse? He knew Mike Caira one day, and he got to see his wallet open. I've known Mike Caira 22 years. I've never seen it yet. And how about this? You didn't know what he was trying to do to you? He figured you're young and impressionable. He threw in the 5-figure, and you throw in another 5, and he'd get 15. You didn't know him back then. It's okay. Aren't we having a good time? There'll be coffee at intermission. Jane, how you doing? Is that just water? I'm impressed. You doing okay, Mike? I am. Okay. You know what? If you don't go to Rome to run things, I'm thinking maybe governor in the next election. I don't know. What do you all think? It would be a great thing. At any rate, in all seriousness, it is wonderful to be here with all of you to celebrate the public service and the friendship and the personality of such an incredible human being. I haven't always known Mike Caira. I came to know him a lot through our mutual public service, and when I became elected to the Senate. And Mike Caira, over the years, particularly the early ones, taught me what was special about Wilmington, about a community that cares about its kids and its seniors and its culture and its natural resources and everything that the town has to offer. And Mike Caira also taught me about how just very important it was to him to stand up for the town. You know, it's very hard sometimes to make difficult decisions. And it's easy in public life when you make a tough decision for folks to criticize you. It's always a lot easier to say yes than it is to say no. But Mike Caira is the guy that has cared so much about the town of Wilmington that he said yes when he could and no when he had to. And that is the character of a great public servant. And look at what it did. When other communities were struggling just to balance budgets, Wilmington had free cash, it had stabilization funds, and most importantly, it had the ability to fund important priorities that people cared about, like new schools, like playing fields, like a senior center that had the things that it needed, like police and fire departments that knew that they had the support of municipal government, and a school system that could dream about the very best for its kids because it knew that the municipal side of government would make it happen. Because of Mike Caira, the town has a certain pride. It has a certain stature. And it isn't all just about the balance sheet, and it isn't all just about the tough decisions. We all know about those things. But it's also about the character of the community, and I mean that in the truest sense of the word. Mike Caira has been there when we've suffered losses. Mike Caira has been there when we've celebrated great things. Mike Caira has been the guy that stands at town meeting with a microphone like this and lays out a vision for the town and works with brilliant department heads and municipal employees to move that vision forward. But Mike Caira is also the guy that you call when you just want to talk about something that may not seem like a big thing to anyone else, but in your life seems like the biggest thing in the world. And you know you want to hear from that steady hand and that man with such clear vision. We are blessed. We are blessed to have had him in the role of a chief executive officer for all the benefits that has yielded for this community, for all the ways in which our lives have been enriched by having contact with him and being inspired by his example. And most of all, just by being reminded that there are still good people in this world who lead by example and make decisions based on the courage of their convictions. We are all the better off for those experiences, and we are all the better off for Mike Caira. So I want to join with every person in this room and many, many more, Mike, in saying thank you for being that example, for being that person we can believe in a world when sometimes it's hard to find such people, and for being the kind of friend that all of us cherish. And Jane, for all the sacrifice and the long nights and all the things that you've had to put up with, I know now you'll be akin to a switchboard operator since he'll be home a little bit more. But for all the strength that you have given him and for the wonderful partnership that you two have created, thank you as well. And to both of you, may you enjoy all of the things in life that you enjoy. I know how you cherish your family and your grandchildren. I was so lucky to be with you at the marathon, or the half marathon, this past weekend. and to see the pride you have in the community and the pride you have in your family. And it has truly, truly been an honor to see that. But may you have the best in life. May you continue to enjoy the friendships of all of those who prize their friendships with you. And may God bless you in your retirement as you have blessed us with your service. Mike, I do want to give you a Senate citation. The evening wouldn't be complete without this. Buzz says it'll get you through the toll booth later. This is a state Senate official citation that reads, "Be it known that the Massachusetts Senate hereby extends its congratulations to Michael Caira in recognition of your 22 years of dedicated service as town manager for the town of Wilmington. And be it further known that the Massachusetts Senate extends best wishes for continued success, that this citation be duly signed by the President of the Senate and attested to, and a copy thereof transmitted by the Clerk of the Senate." This is signed by our Senate President, Therese Murray. It's attested to by our Clerk, William F. Welch, and I'm proud to offer it, most of all as your friend, on September 27th of 2012, to a remarkable public servant and an extraordinary person. Mike and Jane, congratulations.
Thank you, Senator. A couple of things. First of all, that guy out there in the trunk that you talked about, tell him we got the oil sample he's been griping about for the last I was at an event once, I'm not sure what it was. It was probably something like tonight, and Mike was emceeing the event. And the senator was up there, and Mike referred to him as the Energizer Bunny. He keeps going and going and going. I listen to him, and I think more like Forrest Gump. His mouth keeps running and running. Thank you again, Bruce. Always entertaining. It's nice to have that kind of fun. I suspect at this point in the evening we'll probably have a more sentimental segment in the night. But before introducing our next speaker, I want to acknowledge in the audience Mike Caira's former long-standing administrative assistant, Margaret Peg Tarantino. Peg? It's no secret the long hours that Mike Caira keeps at Town Hall, but for as many long days, weekends, and late nights that he spends there over the course of the last 22 years, Peg and her fellow staff members did more than their fair share of long hours too. So I just want to thank all of you for your service, and there's just simply too many of you here to recognize, but thank you very much. Likewise, our next speaker is no stranger to staying as late as it takes to get the job done. She is as dedicated a public employee or any employee that one could ask for. Please give an especially warm welcome to the Secretary of the Board of Selectmen and Mike's administrative assistant, Ms. Beverly Dalton.
At the Board of Selectmen meeting held March 12, 2012, under correspondence, Town Manager Caira reviewed his letter to Chairman Semaglia and members of the board advising them of his intention to retire from active employment on September 30, 2012. On Tuesday, March 13th, I received an email from a reporter of a local newspaper asking 3 questions regarding his retirement. The easiest question asked how long I have worked with Mr. Caira. 22 years. I was asked what I would miss most about working with Mr. Caira. The first thought to enter my mind was a sense of humor, but knowing that he is taking notes, preparing for his turn to speak, I find that very daunting. Next to come to mind was his penmanship. Sounds odd, and if you have received a handwritten note from Mike, that is not the penmanship I am referring to. What I will miss is the distinctive chicken scratch. It is the type of handwriting that requires a specialist to decode. I am proud to say that I have cracked the code. I have learned many new words because there have been those occasions when I've had to trace the letters with my finger to try to figure out what he wrote. When spell check on the computer accepts the word, I find myself inclined to look up the definition in Webster's dictionary. If you like to play Scrabble, this comes in handy. Another benefit to mastering Mike's handwriting is that reading doctor's notes are not even a challenge. Admittedly, there were occasions when I could not decipher the word, so I would have to ask him for help. On those rare occasions, it was very satisfying when he couldn't make out the word either. I also thought about the times when Jane would send Mike in with some homemade goodies. Recently, it was the banana bread. And I will especially miss her peanut brittle at Christmas and Irish soda bread for St. Patrick's Day. And of course, there was Mom's homemade fudge. I can speak for everyone in the town manager's office that we will miss his grandchildren, Christian, Allison, Samantha, Caroline, and Anna. And a visit from them certainly brightened our days. The question posed by the reporter seemed simple enough until I tried to provide an answer. I could not identify one thing that I would miss the most. I finally responded that there isn't one aspect of my position as his administrative assistant or his position as town manager that I will miss the most. It is the whole package. The third question asked me how I felt about Mr. Caira's decision to retire in September. That short answer is that I am very happy for him and his wife. His retirement is well deserved. Although there is no doubt that I will miss working with Mike, tonight, on behalf of 22,000 residents of Wilmington, I would like to say thank you to Jane for sharing Mike with us for 22 years.
Thank you, Bev. Truly, the crowd that's here this evening is a veritable who's who of Wilmington. And as I look around, I see so many people who have made a mark on the town, and I wish that we could recognize all of you, but of course would be here all night long. It really is a tribute to the job that Mike has done that so many people that are so recognizable are here this evening. Having said that, I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize the following list of former or retired department heads with whom Mike relied on whom Mike relied so heavily and with whom he worked so closely over the years. I'd like to welcome retired town engineer Harold Gillum, retired principal assessor Anthony Krasminski, retired public building superintendent Roger Lassard, retired police chief Bernard Nally, retired police chief Robert Spencer, retired fire chief Daniel Stewart, and retired chief of police Bobby Stewart. Included with this list of distinguished guests are our next two speakers, who collectively served as Wilmington's town clerk for over 29 years. I know that Mike holds them both in extremely high regard, and I know that the feeling is mutual. Certainly, these ladies need no introduction in this room, but please welcome Kay Scanlon and Patty Ward.
Gee, I don't know, while we have everybody here, maybe we should do a history of Wilmington or something, huh? Oh, you missed it. Well, Kay and I was clerk, she was my assistant from way back in the 70s. And I've known Mike for many, many years. But first, professionally, dealing with him was when he became my moderator. That was back in '82. He did a great job keeping town meeting under control. Wasn't quite as hard then as it has been lately. But sometimes he would just lean down, nudge me as I'm sitting there trying to keep notes and keep things straight, say something funny to try to make me laugh. Of course, if I laughed, whoever was speaking would think I was laughing at them. He'd get a big kick out of that. Wasn't very nice, Mike. When Mike became manager, I was hopeful because at that time I was being pestered to retire and do a little traveling. So after about 6 months, I told Mike that I was going to retire. I told him I thought he could handle the job on his own. He was doing pretty well. And as we all know, he did a great job without me. Anyway, Mike, you did a great job.
I want to add my congratulations to Jane and Mike and wish his beloved family all the best in his retirement. Mike is a very special person. He's one of these people in life who really gets it. That may be a funny thing to say, but when you're talking to him, he really understands what you're saying. He encouraged me in both my professional and my personal life, and for that, I can never thank him enough, and friendship holds him dear. Patty and I tried to think of just the right thing to show Mike how much we thought of him and how much we appreciated him. Huh, Patty?
Oh.
We went and we looked here and
Everywhere.
there. Patty went to Tiffany's, and I went to Sports Authority because I thought, gee, maybe I can find just the very special thing there. But you know what? We couldn't. We couldn't find a thing that really showed our affection for Mike. So what we decided to do is this. We wanted to do this special treat for Mike and show all our affection to him. And so all of these people here tonight join with us in this. Salute to you. This
Mike.
salute to you.
He's looking at you.
Definite upgrade on the glasses recently, Mike. I tell you what, if you don't start spending some more time at home, you're going to be on the business end of one of these paddles. Earlier tonight, we had the privilege of recognizing several members of Mike's family, all of whom I know are extremely proud of Mike as he is of them. And they appreciate the extraordinary job that he's done and the success that he's enjoyed as Wilmington's town manager. In large part, I attribute Mike's success to his resilience and his stick-to-itiveness. It's no coincidence that a man of Mike's character and mental toughness has the unyielding support of his family. Politics can certainly be a tough racket, and you have to have tough skin to last 22 years as any town manager, but particularly in the town of Wilmington. In the end, local government is comprised of a volunteer army. But like in military service, we are supported by family members that are drafted into action. I've always felt a bond with Mike Caira and knowing that our families would have our backs, no matter what the issue and no matter how mean-spirited the opposition. Indeed, the strength of a family, like the strength of an army, is in its loyalty to each other. Please welcome one of Mike Caira's most loyal supporters, his brother Kevin Caira.
I just wanted to make sure he was really retiring. I just had to ask him that question. Well, Michael, I suppose after tonight you're going to do what most retired people do. Work on crossword puzzles, clip coupons, put little tabs in the entertainment book so you know which restaurant you're heading to. Or maybe you'll hang out on Wilmington Common sitting on a park bench feeding the geese. But I like Senator Tarr's idea. I think you should run for governor. Now, usually Michael helps me write speeches. That's the truth. This time he didn't. By the time I'm finished, he's going to wish he had. Me too. Good evening. My sister Michelle, my brothers Kenny and Tiger, would have you believe that I pulled a short straw tonight, but that simply is not the case. I am here and they are there because I'm Michael's favorite. Seriously. It's a privilege to have been given the honor from my family to represent my mom, my wife Cheryl, Michelle, Kenny and Marianne, Tiger and Sharon, and all of our children to publicly say to everyone here this evening what we privately feel. Michael, we love you, and we applaud you for your compassion and courage and for your conviction and commitment to our community. Tonight, you've heard a lot about my brother's extraordinary skills as an administrator. And it's true. We all admire and appreciate his intellect and sharp wit, his fiscal prowess and leadership style, his grace under fire and civility. But tonight, it's my job to tell you a little bit about the Michael you don't know. Michael is 12 years my senior. I know what many of you were thinking. I thought Kevin was the oldest. Someone said that to me tonight. Who's the oldest? Look at my gray hair. No, actually, I'm the youngest. My gray hair comes from having Michael as my older brother. Anyway, in figuring out what I was going to say tonight, I recruited Michelle, Kenny, Tiger, and Mom. The way I figure it, if I'm going down, we're all going down. We tried to come up with a list of top 10 facts that you didn't know about Michael Anthony Caira. I bet you didn't know his middle name was Anthony. And that the family members refer to him as Michael, not Mike. Well, to begin with, if you'd asked my mom where Michael was born, she would tell you a little manger in the town of Bethlehem. But the fact is, he was born on September 2nd, 1949 in Newton, Massachusetts. Hey, happy belated birthday. I forgot. Our family lived in the Italian section of Newton known as the Lake. Michael attended Our Lady's Catholic School until grade 4. That's the year we moved to Chestnut Street in Wilmington in 1958. Now, Michael's a great storyteller, and he used to tell me that after baseball practice, and after Michelle had her majorette practice, and Kenny had band practice at the high school, that they hated to walk home from school because it was 10 miles to walk home. All the way, uphill, and they had to walk all that way. And you know something? That's not a fact. The fact of the matter is they enjoyed walking home because they used to stop at Woodside's drugstore for a fountain drink or a coconut-covered ice cream. Sometimes they went to Weinberg's for some penny candy. But you know, if it was me, I would have went to Poole's Bakery for the donuts. When Michael, Kenny, Tiger, and I played touch football or basketball in the front yard, now that was a sight to see. No arguments or fights, it was just a lot of fun. Michael would always pick me first, and I suppose the fact he picked me was that I really wasn't that good. But Kenny and Tiger were that bad. Tiger, I'm just kidding. Tiger was actually very good. Kenny, not so much. Michael grew up loving sports and was an avid baseball card collector. Too bad the fact is Mom wasn't, if you know what I mean. Michael loved Mickey Mantle so much that he picked Mickey for his confirmation name. Of course, Father Mackin squashed that idea, and he opted for Joseph instead. Not Francis, as Father Mackin suggested. As a kid, Michael occasionally wore shorts, but as an adult, never. Not even in the hottest days of summer. To prove it, if you were to ask him right now to lift his pant leg up, you'd notice that his legs are as white as his head is brown. Michael graduated from Wilmington High School in 1967, but before he headed off to Boston College, he was awarded a scholarship from the Democratic Town Committee. That's a fact. But do I have to say it? It was said before. He's a Republican.